this. Turn it up at home or on the go. Just open the SiriusXM app and search Labor Day.
And what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least two of your favorite players' stats, like Christian McCaffrey's rushing yards or CeeDee Lamb's receptions. If you're right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple of huge offers to kickstart the NFL season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. If you've already played, Sleeper's got something for you, too. Joe Burrow's passing yards are set to 0.5 for week 1, so grab that while you can. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code RADIO, and your first deposit will be doubled up to $100. So what are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and unlock one of the fastest growing fantasy sports apps in the world. Use code RADIO for up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code RADIO. Must be
big on the block,
but blowing up your feed.
They not like us.
Hip Hop Nation is the sound of the culture.
Top say drop, you better drop and give them 50.
I'm presidential leaving the club. We ain't stopping at no light.
The turn up starts here. To listen to Hip Hop Nation, activate your subscription now by calling 844-711-8800 or head over to SiriusXM.com to sign up quickly.
You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, that's it. You gotta get this. You gotta get this.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 0181486.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood on a beautiful Labor Day, Monday, September the 2nd, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard in the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. I went to a Nam Yoho Renkeyo, Nam Yoho Renkeyo, Nam Yoho Renkeyo. Went to a session over the weekend, and I really appreciate how chanting and prayer go together, and I'm going to keep doing that because I believe in making things happen. I know it's making my stomach tighter because I got to take a long time to go Nam Yoho Renkeyo, Nam Yoho Renkeyo, Nam Yoho Renkeyo. Try it sometimes. It actually tightens your stomach. All's fair and level where I want to say. I really appreciate doing Big C Sports Podcast. I know I'm big on sports and reparations. College football kicked off. How about those Trojans? Trojan man. How about those Trojans? Those Trojans whipped up on those Tigers from LSU. I think this guy named Paul Firebaum, and he was saying that LSU, the good old boys from the South, are going to go to Las Vegas, and they're going to eat some Trojans. You want a horse? We'll get you a horse. Scarface said in the movie Scarface. He said, I'm so hungry I can eat a horse. Frank said that. You want a horse? We'll get you a horse. Yeah, that Trojan horse. They didn't let the Trojan horse run around at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, but rumor has it there were a lot of Trojans. in Las Vegas. Oh, man, what a game. How about the SEC? And the SEC talk a lot. I want to bet against my brother, too. He talks so much about SEC football and how they're going to dominate the good old boys from Troy. And I said, not so fast, my friend. USC with a 27-20 win over LSU. They dominated LSU in the fourth quarter, 14-3. They even had a field goal kicker miss a kick. So, really, I thought it was going to be 30-20. But everybody can say, well, what about this play? What about that play? I think USC defensive line was too difficult for LSU to run the ball against. LSU had one big run, about 39 yards, and they're a team in the South that runs the ball well. And then I'll get into what happened. USC star quarterback, obviously looking like he's up for the Heisman Trophy winner, almost 400 yards passing against LSU's defense, that SEC defense that the media brags about. You're welcome to the SEC. You got to play a different brand of football in the SEC. Well, USC showed them it's the USC that you got to be worried about. The USC you got to be worried about because that was a beatdown. The game was not as close as the score. USC, I thought, dominated at the defensive line of scrimmage. And then the passing game, USC's quarterback played a lot better than LSU. But it was a good game overall. A lot of talent on the field at the Kickoff Classic in Las Vegas. But Southern California really showed that they are as capable as any team in the country playing good defense. And the offense cannot be stopped. They only stopped themselves a couple of times by Lincoln Riley trying to do a reverse play down inside their own 20-yard line. That doesn't make any sense. But he made up for it. Also, I thought he should have gone for the touchdown at halftime when they missed the field goal. You had 9 seconds on the clock. I think they let 30 seconds get away. Either way, it shows that Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly, good programs, LSU and USC, but USC is clearly a better football program than LSU, and they were on a neutral site, but I do give the LSU fans some credit. Those good boys from the South, they were in Las Vegas, I was hearing, since Wednesday, so they were all getting liquored up, and they realized they had a bigger hangover when they left the stadium. What do they say? I heard somebody say on a Southern talk show they were going to get their sphincters sprayed with a water hose. I said, that's torture. They're going to get their sphincters sprayed with a water hose. I mean, the Southern people are something else. They put all their heart, mind, body, and soul into football, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's the highlight of your life, hoping that a college football team can win a game. But there's a lot of people in that environment. That's okay, all fair and level war. The USC Trojans fight with a dominating win over LSU. The fact that they were the underdog by 4.5 points by some people that really don't know football that well. And I thought they'd win 34-20. And had they gotten that touchdown and the field goal, it would have been another 10 points. But it's all fair and level war. Great game by the USC Trojans. All fair and level war. Really do appreciate that. Miami looked really good, knocking out Florida. And I'll get into some more college football. Notre Dame got a surprise win down at Texas A&M. I thought Texas A&M would win that at Kyle Field because they have the 12th man that stands over 110,000 strong, I'm hearing. And they stand throughout the game. Most of them do. But Notre Dame went in there and got a big win. Oregon didn't look as impressive at home against Idaho, but maybe they were holding over some things that they didn't want to show Boise. Boise had a big win, a high-scoring game against Georgia State as well. But I'll get into that, and I will get into Michigan with a win over Fresno State. Michigan defense looks really good. I thought Fresno State had some chances, but obviously the line play at Michigan makes it really tough. But they'll have a big test with Texas coming in this week up in the big house in Michigan. That's a game. If Texas wins, it won't be an upset, if that makes sense to you. They put a beat down on Colorado State. But there's a lot of good football. Alabama looked good. Georgia knocked out Clemson 34-3. I thought they would. I thought Clemson would play better, but obviously we played to win the game. They played to win the game, and the good boys just didn't show up as well as they should have. And then I got some stuff on reparations. Today's show might be totally different because I believe in doing things real. I feel there's some things that happen in politics. They say politics is a dirty game. Well, Scarface told us that in the movie Scarface. It was like the governor of California with his own reparations task force that he put together and mandated, and then the California Legislative Black Caucus, some of the members, they said your vote goes down at 11:59 p.m. Well, it didn't get defeated. They just didn't vote for it. It's like having a wedding. You say, well, the wedding didn't happen, not because the person didn't say I don't. They just didn't show up to say I do. They want to table the matter into next year, into January, and we'll see what happens with that. I still believe that a couple of bills for reparations did pass, but obviously the meat on the bone was not brought out of the oven. They didn't even bring it to vote. And I'll get into some of that too. I'm going to play some live. I was there live, so I want you to hear it with your own ears. I'm not going to redact anything. I'm going to let you hear it with your own ears what was happening. That they did not even allow people to come in and watch the vote. And that, to me, it was like a setup. But that's part of what happens. What does Scarface say? It's politic. It's politic, but you got to fight on to live another day. All's fair and level work. Couple of bills passed. Some significant, some not as significant. But the meat where the rubber hits the road, I think a lot of things could have been much better when that comes to pass. I want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. And just like in Genesis 1:3, what God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then the governor of California said, I think I'm going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. That was, to me, politics. That's what politics was. That's my story. I'm taking with it. And then God said, let there be light. I think light is shining on the world of politics. I want to say thank you to the Veterans Crisis Hotline, because they know a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do go to veteranscrisisline.net, you want to give it some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's nice when somebody you lean on is leaning back. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I do want to say, as I get into the program, I'm going to run and get some information that's really important that I want to bring up, because I know what I'm doing. In fact, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to bring you some conversation right now that happened at the state capitol.
Oh, you're good.
I'm saying? Like, it's hard to move shit.
So you telling me the rest of the caucus ready to throw their careers away over her feelings? That's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me.
I mean, I'm telling you that there's the only pathway, and not just now, like anything ever, always, is you have to get a majority of the caucus. And sometimes it's different folks that causing the problems for different reasons. And in this case, there's also partial author problems. But 14 years of work, I'm trying to help him figure this out here at the end. Trying to help him figure it out before he goes off, and new folks come in. There's 40 members of the caucus coming next year.
It has to be, you gotta figure it out.
No, it's not acceptable.
I didn't say next year. I'm saying there's 40 members of the caucus next year. And that's why I'm trying to help get this done for him too, so that he's done.
Today.
I am trying.
Next year.
We gotta get those out for 2 days. It's not gonna be an excuse at all. That's what we do.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I signed up for this guy. I miss my days in back then. It's more fun on that side. It's because you actually don't have to move all the other. You know, I miss them days when I could just say what I want. No, when I could say what I'm saying. No, I understand.
This don't feel like the fun.
That's why we need the right folks on the right side.
Right. And we need you and the other folks who are willing to do it to move the other members.
It's not we're trying. It's not we're trying.
You want to take my side and jump? Like, what you want? You know, that's like,
I want you to do
what do you want me to do?
whatever you need to do
Persuasion is the only tool
to change their mind.
Just remember who actually came out to talk.
So
explain from the jump who's where doing what. I can be ducking what was security or whatever.
So since you came out to make it happen.
I'm trying. I don't have the power to make it happen on my own. I cannot make it happen on my own any more than you can make it happen on your own. What I can do is do my part. I'm all the way in on my part.
we got you.
I'm trying to go the rest. That's been part of the conversation.
The bills that they are passing on reparations, why is the one that hasn't moved forward so important to you compared to everything that has moved forward?
So, I don't know the bills are not reparations.
Not reparations.
An apology is not reparations. Extending the Crown Act, giving for winning, that's not no damn reparations. Passing a bill so that people can read the books that they want to read, that's not no damn reparations.
In jail.
Okay? That ain't no damn reparations.
That's not even close. Everybody else got a check.
Affirmative action ain't no reparations. Passing a bill to let people not have to work in prison, that ain't no damn reparations. None of those other bills are the only bills that are actually reparations bills are the bills that they hold in. The only bills that actually let us even do reparations are the bills that they scared to bring up. Each one of these members, each one of the CLBC members is a co-author on the bills that they killing. They have their names on the bills that they killing. They got scared of the governor, and now they willing to do what the governor says versus what the people saying. It's unacceptable. It's going to be serious political consequences for every single person that's a part of this. This is not going to go unanswered. They still have time right now. They can bring the bills up right now. Reggie Jones Sawyer can bring the bills up right now.
And why do you blame the Black Caucus members instead of other members of the
Because we have the votes. We've been counting votes and working members for the past 6 months. We have the votes. The only people who don't want these bills to come up for a vote are the members of the Black Caucus. Reggie Jones Sawyer can bring the bills up right now. As we talking, he can bring the bills up right now. Wilson can help bring the bills up right now. Nia Bonta, she can bring the bills up right now. But they scared. They are scared. But the problem is they scared of the wrong thing.
They need to be scared of the election in November.
They're more scared of the governor than they are the people that put them in office. We got to fix that. The problem is they scared of the wrong thing.
They need to be scared of the election in November.
They're more scared of the governor than they are the people that put them in office. We got to fix that.
Are you guys all from LA?
some from LA, Sacramento, some LA, we got some from LA. People came from all over the state. All over the state. This is completely unacceptable. It's crazy. They killing their own bills.
They're killing their own people. They're killing their own people.
Are you with the LA Times?
They're killing their own people. They're killing their own people.
Are you with the LA Times?
Everybody here is saying the same thing. Everybody is saying the same thing. Bring the bills up. The Speaker Reeves, he can help bring the bills up. The Speaker needs to bring the bills up now. These are their bills. They have their names on the bills. They killing their own bills because they scared of the government. Now, listen, they gonna see this and they gonna get mad at us. They killing their own bills, then they gonna get mad at us. They killing their own bills and scared of the government. Okay?
Well, now you heard it with your own eyes and ears. I was there and had the chance to put some things onto my phone and just record the passion that you heard at the state capitol. It was Saturday night up until about 11:59 p.m. when it became quite evident that they were not going to hear the cause of reparations. And I want to say I'm very grateful that I was able to be there and be a part of the conversation. It's not over. There's still some work to be done. There's still some votes to be made. And I want to make sure that I get that part in there, as I always do with Big C Sports Podcast. Not just sports, but reparations. Things that are more important than who won a game. Because we have situations now where they're giving what they call illegal undocumented aliens housing. That's right, housing. And for people who've been here, getting nothing, dealing with a lot of challenges. But I wanted to make sure that I got that part out on Big C Sports Podcast. Today is a Labor Day, but it's been a lot of labor going into getting these bills passed that obviously did not turn out the way they wanted. So California Democrats talked a big game on reparations. They're off to a slow start. It's not over, though. Governor Gavin Newsom and California lawmakers in 2020, they touted a law to create the first in the nation state task force to study and propose remedies to atone for the legacy of slavery, like the Just Act for descendants of Holocaust. 4 years later, their work to deliver reparations is more incremental than groundbreaking, stoking a lot of frustration among advocates who fill the Capitol as lawmakers cast their final votes of the legislative session on Saturday night up until 11:59 p.m. and 59 seconds. When the clock struck midnight, whatever didn't pass, they'd have to push it into next year. But there's so many things that when it comes to politics, the state budget deficit, it did not stop them from giving housing up to $150,000 down payment for illegal aliens. There was no talk about the state being hamstrung by a deficit for undocumented aliens or immigrants, however you want to call it. That's not right. But they did it anyway. And obviously, there's a lot of people frustrated right now with the Democratic Party, a politically volatile issue in an election year. How's reparations politically volatile when they're giving housing to undocumented aliens, illegal immigrants? That's not politically volatile. The California legislature passed a limited slate of reparations bills, and the meager progress, though held by some lawmakers and advocates in a state as liberal as California, is a test to the nation's persistence on liberty and justice for all. So when it comes to the rubber meeting the road, a lot of Democrats are still unwilling and unable to truly support the efforts outside of symbolic and less than substantive ways. And obviously, when you have that's a thought held by a lot of politicians. the California Legislative Black Caucus announced 14 priority reparations bills in January based on recommendations made last year by the Reparations Task Force that was mandated by California Governor Gavin Newsom, who's been very quiet of late. Now, the lawmakers cast the legislation as their first step, focused largely on enacting policy changes in education, healthcare, and criminal justice, while omitting cash payments in light of the state's financial troubles. Now, they're giving cash to undocumented aliens for houses, up to $150,000 to buy a house in California, and I believe other parts of the country. Now, lawmakers passed 10 bills in the package before they adjourned on Saturday night, including the marquee legislation requiring a formal apology from the state perpetuating the harms African Americans face by having imbued racial prejudice through segregation, public and private discrimination, and unequal dispersal of state and federal funding, and declaring that such actions shall not be repeated. At the same time, it's an oxymoron because they just gave money to illegal immigrants or illegal aliens to buy houses in California, and also other undocumented aliens. The legislature placed a measure on the November ballot that asks voters to delete language in the California Constitution that allows involuntary servitude as a form of punishment for crimes. Another bill would end the work requirement for able-bodied state prisoners and instead develop a voluntary work program if the ballot measure banning involuntary servitude is approved. Now, on the desk for reparations is Senate Bill 1050 for eminent domain. Governor Newsom has to sign it. I believe he has till the 28th of September to sign that. That allows people to get property back that was seized by eminent domain. And other bills establish a process for the state to review and investigate claims of racially motivated taking of property by governments using the power of eminent domain that I just spoke about, and seek to increase and track participation in career training and education among African Americans and low-income students, and expand Medi-Cal coverage pending federal approval to include benefits for medically supported food and nutrition. Now, the legislation now in Newsom's desk also included new oversight of book bans in California prisons, a requirement that grocery stores and pharmacies give written notices at least 45 days before closing, and the expansion of a state law prohibiting discrimination based on hairstyles to include youth sports. If you feel a little bit punched in the stomach, you can feel that way. It's interesting that African American descendants of people who were enslaved in the United States for state licenses to establish grants to fund local efforts to decrease violence in African American communities, a proposal to amend the state constitution to allow funding for programs that increase life expectancy, improve educational outcomes, and alleviate poverty among certain racial and ethnic groups of people also failed. But they're giving money to illegal aliens to get housing. Assemblymember Lori D. Wilson of Suisun City, a Democrat who led the Legislative Black Caucus, said that work on reparations will continue next year and that the successful bills marked an important first step. It was definitely intentional to start laying a foundation, she said. We look forward to building on top of that and being able to really engage the community on the work that we're doing. So there's a lot of talk about what happened at the state capitol, but the person that I want to champion is California Senator Stephen Bradford, because he's been a champion for reparations, and I believe he's running for another office in California next year, Lieutenant Governor. And Senator Stephen Bradford, Democrat of Gardena, California, Southern California, who introduced the bill to begin the process of reversing racially motivated land and property seizures in the reparations package. He pushed two additional bills that failed to even come up to vote, even though it passed the first two rounds overwhelmingly. And the legislator of California refused to take them up for a final vote to create a California American Freedmen's Affairs Agency and to establish a fund for reparations and reparative justice to pay for and carry out reparations policies already approved by lawmakers. As the bill's languished in the assembly on Saturday night, reparations advocates gathered in the Capitol Rotunda to lobby lawmakers bring the bills up. They shouted every time an assembly member emerged from the chamber, and I played that earlier on my program. So no matter what you think, it's not over. It's like a football game. Right now it's halftime because they won the first 2 quarters overwhelmingly. So the bills were not voted down. They were just not voted on. That's called politics. And that's just part of politics. The only bills to actually let us even do reparations are the bills that they're scared to bring up. Bradford said the bill's failure was the biggest disappointment of his 14-year career in the California legislature, which came to an end Saturday night. And I think it's time to strike. The nation's watching, and I think we owe it not only to African Americans here in California, but across the nation to set a fine example, he said. And he saddened by it, but don't give up. The legislation has to go forward. The California Legislative Black Caucus was based on recommendations from California's Reparations Task Force at the conclusion of the historic 2-year process last summer to study the effects of slavery, to prove the ways in which government continues to discriminate against African American people, and to suggest policy changes in state lawmakers. So I want people to know you got to give Senator Bradford some praise. I want to give him praise. I say give him praise, because I want to make sure that I do my part. And making sure that as a sports show, I don't want to just be a guy that talks sports. I hear some people from the South talking about putting a fire hose up somebody's backside because they have a bad football team. And that's the mind washing that we don't need. Senate Bill 1331 pays California state government to do the work of reparations. Senate Bill 1403 sets up the Freedmen's Bureau agency to administer everything. And 1050 passed to get African American stolen property back. So everything has not failed. That's what I want to just keep people encouraged with. Everything has not failed. We're just at halftime. Obviously, things got to be pushed into next year. But they did not reject it. They just not bring it to vote. But that's called politics. That's called politics, and that's the way politics goes. So I hope that people stay informed. I will definitely keep you informed with Big C Sports Podcast, because if you don't hear it here, oftentimes you get a 2-minute soundbite on the news. Now, outrage as California opens up $300 million home loan scheme to migrants. You got to hear that again. Migrants could soon apply for California's tax-funded home buying scheme. Zero interest loans give buyers 20% of the purchase price or closing costs. Californians are reacting angrily to revelations that migrants who entered the United States illegally could soon benefit from a taxpayer-funded state scheme to help hard-up residents buy homes. You got to understand that. Democrats, the California Senate Appropriations Committee, have approved a bill to move forward that would open up the California Dream for All Shared Appreciation Loan Program to non-legal migrants. The scheme was launched last year and has already provided thousands of first-time home buyers with loans up to 20% of a house's purchasing price for down payment or closing costs. Yet they said there's no money for reparations. Wouldn't even vote on it. Again, California has chosen to prioritize illegal immigration and fiscal irresponsibility over the needs of its citizens. I'll say that one more time. Non-legal immigrants can soon be eligible for a tax-funded home buying scheme in California. You gotta believe that. To me, is a shame, and people gotta vote. You gotta vote for things that you want. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, I got more to talk about this week on the Reparations Task Force. You got to give Big C Sports some praise. You don't hear that on Paul Feinbaum's show or some of the other shows where they're giving people $100 million for a podcast, and all they talk about is who won a game. There's nothing to educate your mind, but that's why I want to be different than Big C Sports Podcast. I have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth, Resource Development Consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and attorney George Jones. The missing link, long-term care solutions by the book. Over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits. Medicare and You is taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. Other places, it's called Medicaid. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Our promise to you, specialized to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spend down, and all paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists. Ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. But not only that, protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare debt bought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. If you don't have a will and a trust at the end of life, it goes to probate. And they can take between 10 to 40%. A trust avoids that. A one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. But not only that, I'm not done yet. Asset protection. What does a trust do? We have protection insurance coverage required by a law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning, and avoid the look-back period. A trust protects your fixed assets, your bank account, checking account, savings account, money market account, certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed index annuities. A trust also protects your variable assets, your real estate, qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, and other investments. For example, you avoid capital gains, so you buy a house for $100,000. And 1 year later, that house appreciates to $1 million, according to some real estate brokers. To get the sale, that's a $900,000 capital gains. You can avoid that with a trust. Over 3 decades of experience, attention business owners, over 3 decades of experience, attention business owners. I want to just say, find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. And at the same time, I want to tell you about the endorsements that we have with the RDC team that I rep with Big C Sports Podcast. I love doing that every Monday through Friday, worldwide, all over the world. It's important to me because I want to be factual with everything that I do with Big C Sports Podcast. I want to say our endorsements come from the late James Gomez, who advised 4 California governors and led change in California's nursing homes. He served on the Golden Ones Board of Directors for 21 years. The late Jim Gomez, also the CEO of California Association of Health Facilities. He endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, the late Robert Carlson, the top legal counsel for CalPERS, he endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. George Jones, Esquire, the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. He endorsed the RDC team. Also, Attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California, he endorsed the RDC team. Also, George H. Jones, the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We also have Mr. Leon Woods, Resource Development Consulting, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. He endorsed the RDC team. We also have Ms. Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. Not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, been doing his thing over 34 years. We also have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Charlton Curry, the co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, also consultant of the RDC team, business development consultant, also owner of Big C Sports Podcast. I endorse the RDC team. But not only that, we have Double O, the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project, also consultant with the RDC team, also has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat, and she endorses the RDC team. You got to give that some praise. Give it praise, because the mind is a terrible thing to waste, and I want to give it all praise. And I want to make sure, as we push for reparations, we're only at halftime. It's not over. There's still next year for the push for reparations to be signed into law, and I believe it will. But I want you to hear the number one speaker ever when it comes to reparations.
Martin Luther King, we had a conversation a couple days ago about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
At the same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America, and it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them. He murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Now you hear the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You also heard some live play of what happened at the state capitol last Saturday night. And then you hear that the bills were not voted on for reparations, 1331 and 1403. But I will go back to and there's some talk that Gavin Newsom put pressure on not to bring it up now. But the California budget, $12 million was set aside for the reparations bill, atoning for the state's racist history. The California's plans to spend the $12 million on reparations legislation under a budget signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, making a milestone in the state's efforts to atone for a legacy of racism and discrimination against African Americans. So that's still on the table going forward. I know there's a lot of talk behind it. I guess when the dust clears, we'll all know. But the reparations funding in the $297 billion budget Newsom signed over the last month does not specify what programs the money would go toward. And we'll just see what happens, because it's still open. No matter what people are thinking, it has not been closed. So the state legislature is weighing proposals to issue a formal apology. That went through. California's role in perpetuating discrimination against African Americans, and to create and administer reparations programs and identify families whose property was unjustly seized through eminent domain. Now, that went through, but remember, it's politics. There's more to come. There's a second half to play in this game for 2025. Governor still has to sign the eminent domain law. But I still want to say, I believe Senator Bradford will become Lieutenant Governor of California. And this money for reparations should be a reason for celebration. That's California Senator Stephen Bradford of Los Angeles. And you got to keep fighting for what you want. I even saw my own picture in some of the national news on Fox News and ABC News and NBC News and CNN, because I'm standing there 10 toes to the floor. And for good people that believe in the Just Act for descendants of the Holocaust, for good people that believe in reparations that happened for Japanese Americans that were interned unjustly, for good people who believe in the reparations that's given to our Native American brethren, and these reservations where people go to gamble money now, they're getting part of their own reparations. And it's time for descendants of chattel slavery, African American freedmen, maybe change our name to freedmen. Or, as someone said to me the other day, maybe we should all become what they call illegal aliens, and we would get a 20% down payment on houses also. Because that's happening right as they're tabling the talk on reparations. But we got to believe, if you can just get informed, get educated, which is what I want to do with Big C Sports Podcast, I'm going to do the best I can to just continue to elucidate the subject. I want to do that. This to me is more important than a Southern talk show talking about washing somebody's backside out with a fire hose because they had a crappy football team. And that's on a national radio show. You don't learn anything from that garbage. But that's on the air. Some people endorse that kind of behavior and that kind of talk. But Big C Sports, I want to be a little bit different. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I will always try to do what's right for good people. You know, you people, to bring the subject to the table, to talk about reparations. I just want to finish up too on that, and you can give that some praise. I say give it praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I do want to say, with college football, there's so much to talk about. I'll most likely get to it later in the week. NFL football is kicking off this week also, and I want to make sure that I cover as much as I can. But I want to say, for the West Coast fans of college football, USC beat LSU 27-20 in Las Vegas. It was a record crowd in Las Vegas also, more than any NFL game has ever produced. And so that tells you how popular college football is. But USC, really more physical than LSU. LSU couldn't really run the ball other than a long 39-yard gain. But they were stopped for about 3 yards in a cloud of dust every time they tried to run against USC's revamped defense. It was a really good showing for the Pac-12. And I'm proud to be a part. Let me just say, did I say Pac-12? It's now the Pac-2. It's the Pac-2. It's the Pac-2 because some people, they lost their login minds. And let the Pac-12 go away. And then USC beats up on LSU down in Las Vegas. And the game was not as close as the score. In the fourth quarter alone, it was 14-3 USC. And it could have been more than that. It could have been at least 20-3 in the fourth quarter. But it's all fair and level worth. That's the way the game is. That's the way the ball bounces. I just want to make sure that when it comes to sports, and I got so much to talk about, but I only have so much time to get in. But nothing was more important in my mind than talking about what happened with reparations for descendants of chattel slavery. I want to call us freedmen. I'm going to change that name from descendants of chattel slavery to freedmen, like the Freedmen's Bureau. That's still on the table to be talked about. Some big performers in college football week one around the country. And I hope that a lot of these young African-American kids will get involved in the push for reparations as well. Ashton Jeanty of Boise State, 20 carries, 267 yards, and 6 touchdowns over Georgia Southern. It was a 56-45 win for Boise State. That's a lot of running. And then we have Tatoria McMillan, Arizona, 10 catches, 304 yards, and 4 touchdowns in a big game by the Arizona Wildcats, and they beat New Mexico. And then Cam Ward, who played at Washington State last year, now one of the 2 members of the Pac-2 with Oregon State and Washington State. Cam Ward, Miami, Florida, he was 26-35, 418 yards total offense, and 385 passing and 3 touchdowns as the Miami Hurricanes beat up on the Florida Gators. Jackson Dart, Ole Miss, 22 of 27, 445 yards, 418 passing yards, and 6 touchdowns as Ole Miss put a very good showing, 76-11 over Furman, not the same level. And Anthony Tyus, the third, Ohio, 16 carries, 203 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ohio's offense in a 38-22 loss to Syracuse. But that's college football for you. Ryan Williams, Alabama, 2 catches, 137 yards, and 2 touchdowns. All fan level where Alabama with a big win in their week 1 of college football. Now, I will tell you, there's so much football to be covered this year, but I do want to give that some space because there's so much going on in life right now that's more important than who won a game. And I love being part of Big C Sports Podcast because I believe in liberty and justice for all. I don't want to just be a talking head. I know a lot of people believe in that, but I'm not one of them. I'm just so happy that college football is back. NFL football is right around the corner. And so many people, they find a way to get away from things in life that maybe are not as comfortable to talk about. But I love doing that with Big C Sports Podcast. I want to bring you some of everything. And I also got a game, West Virginia, they fell flat at home against Penn State. And they looked like they were just outmatched by Penn State. Notre Dame, they got an impressive win in Texas, at Texas A&M. And I was shocked that Notre Dame would go into and Texas A&M and win that game. But obviously, you got to play to win. We play to win the game. That's just the way it is. We play to win the game. I love college football. It's one of the things in life that makes things feel a little bit more normalized in the world of politics. I love the world of politics also. I believe that we can do both. We can stay informed. In fact, you go to college so you can become more erudite, more educated. And that's what a lot of people want to do when it comes to going to college, not just to play sports. Because no matter what you do as an athlete, there's always someone making money off of you. Name, image, and likeness, that helps a lot. But there's always someone making some money off of you. I do want to also say that at the state capitol, I do appreciate so many of the wonderful people that were there. There's a show called One Gung every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11. They talk reparations. And that's Tim and Marvell. Really do appreciate the compliments that come out of their mouths about Big C Sports Podcast. Also want to thank Double R for giving me a lot of props for Big C Sports Podcast too. I want to thank the task force for California. There's a lot of friction about what happened and who dropped the ball, etc. But I want to thank Camila Moore. She's the chair of the California Reparations Task Force. I spoke with her many times on Saturday about what was going on at the state capitol. She's going to be on the Big C Sports Podcast too, coming up soon, hopefully this month. We'll figure that out. I want to thank Dr. Amy C. Brown, the vice chair of the task force. I want to really thank California Senator Stephen Bradford, the champion for reparations, and he will become the next lieutenant governor of California if the people want the right man and the right job. That's my straight up ticket with it. Really appreciate him. And I mean, he has to feel a little bit like he was betrayed, but we got to figure it out. I want to thank Council member Monica Montgomery Stepp. I love giving her praise. Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer, I got to say I'm disappointed with him. I had him on Big C Sports Podcast just last month. And when he walked down the hallway, he was shaking and laughing and grinning when people were saying, Mr. Sawyer, can you please bring the bills to a vote? And he laughed as if he was a clown. It was kind of shocking to me to see that. The lack of respect that he showed people in the hall asking him, can you bring the vote on reparations that your colleague, Senator Bradford, championed for? It would be one thing to walk down and just wave at people and walk out, but he was like waving both hands like he was laughing and giggling that he obstructed the reparations task force and the vote for reparations. That's disappointing. Really is, but I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I was about 20 feet away from him as he walked through the hallway. I want to give Dr. Shell Grills some praise. I want to give praise to Lisa Holder, Attorney Lisa Holder. Also, Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, Professor at California Berkeley, and Attorney Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force. Give them praise. You know, there's not a lot of time to do things, but there's always time to do the right thing and be about action, get informed, know what's going on. This is a big political year for a lot of people. But I felt like a lot of the politicians, you can read it with your own 2 eyes. I felt like the party that's going to take the White House, they're going to have to address the issue of reparations. And one party just showed you how they felt. They wouldn't even talk about it. They passed some of the bills. I want to hold out some hope that there's still opportunity going forward for the nation to do the right thing when it comes to California reparations, because we're halfway there. And there's just a few more bills that need to be taken care of that will be happening next year. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always say, happy Labor Day for everybody. Happy Labor Day for all the good people out there trying to get labor laws that keep people healthy and happy, all that's fair and love and warm. I want to say, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can walk it off. You can sleep it off. You don't have to drink and drive. You can call Uber. You can call Lyft. Don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you, or someone who's loved by somebody else. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As our beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to deal with that crap on their own. If you're dealing with that, you need more LEAD IT in your life. LEAD IT is an acronym for love is the answer. If somebody loves you, they don't hit you. I only hit you because you make me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't choke you out. I only choke you out because you make me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't beat you. I only beat you because you make me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't hit you. They don't kick you. They don't beat you. Call 911. No one should ever have to put up with that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy of my grandparents' side, of my mother's side, my great-grandparents, mama and pop. Beautiful, loving, kind people. Always lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. And then always saying, go wash your hands before you get this pot of food. Say, great grandma, I don't need to wash my hands. I'm hungry now. She said, boy, go wash your hands before you get the ribs off of that grill. I don't need to wash my hands before I get the ribs off of the grill. She said, you're going to burn your hands. I don't care. I'm hungry now. Ouch. I burned my hand. I should always listen and wash my hands. Always wash your hands and get a plate. Don't grab the meat off the grill if that makes sense to you, especially on this Labor Day. I'm going only fruits and vegetables a day, but I will have some tuna. So I guess that's not a fruit. It's not a vegetable, but no red meat to me today. All's fair and level war. I want to thank my great-grandparents, love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then my grandparents, Muddy and Hezekiah, beautiful, loving people. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Loving a Head Start program, a food program, and also coaching all boys, the Little League baseball team, to the championship of the universe. Mama, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always saying rise and shine. You know my praise. You know my praise, Mama. You know my praise. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. The best person I ever met in my life. And then on my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry. They were pastors. They had 3 churches and also owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. But they owned 40 acres of land. I was 8 years old walking through the hallway about 10 o'clock at night. I felt someone touch me in my forehead. She said, what are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies? I said, well, what are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies? I said, cookies are baby crap. That's what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long week. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying develop your mind to a size extent. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice. Sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. Always saying go forward. A voracious reader. Always talking about sports and politics. In fact, we love Malcolm X and we love the movie Pulp Fiction with Sam Jackson, John Travolta, Ben Rames, and Bruce Willis before the big fight. I understand what Ben Rames was saying. He said, your butt goes down in the 5th round. Say that, flip. I said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. He said, that's diggers to say so you're feeling? Well, that's just pride. Flipping with you. And as the Democratic caucus did not even put the reparations, 2 more bills to the vote, they said, look, pride. They said, pride only hurts. It never helps. It said, politics is filled with a lot of unrealistic muddly bluckers who think that butt gets better with time like fine wine, but it don't. In terms of vinegar, then it does. He said it about boxing, but I'm trying to mix the metaphors together. He said someday you're going to thank Uncle Marsalis when you're chilling on the Caribbean. Now take the dive and go enjoy your life. We know Bruce Willis did not take the dive, and he lost his LA privileges. Just like a lot of the lawmakers, they may lose their privileges because they turn their back on the 5-yard line. They turn their back. Milagros strike. Love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. He always said, go forward, don't look back because you don't have much backside. I said, I love my backside, Todd. But he said my backside wasn't big enough, and I'm trying to make it bigger. I'm about doing squats. I'm trying to get a bigger backside by doing squats. Todd, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years. From a major university, Daisy set up the very first interview for a Big C Sports podcast back at Salem Media. It became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. Normally they would go to ESPN. Daisy, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You can always be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, good man. Malcolm, always trust God. You can be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and read stats for Big C Sports podcast on players and teams. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went up. I've been Googling ever since. And now I'm streaming on 29 podcast platforms and on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. One day Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. Now streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon TV podcast. Malcolm, you can be anything you want. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always trust God. Always pray, pray, pray. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Big C, with all that wealth and knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn with their church buddies, just like for the voting process, always saying you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe, saying let's get ready to rumble. I love saying, welcome to the show. It's been nominated, Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients called it the third eye. They said that's how you talk to God. And that's why I yell so loud, because I want God to hear me. God, you hear my praise. You hear my praise, praise, praise. Love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, God. And then, as I love saying, I love doing with Big C Sports, paying homage to Muhammad Ali. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee. Remember, Ali won the championship 3 times in a row. That means he had to lose it a couple of times too. The reparations is not over. We got halfway through, and the other half will get on the back 9, if that makes sense to you. As I always pay homage, what an appropriate time, to President Abraham Lincoln and the inimitable Martin Luther King Jr. Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! Say it 2 more times. Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! Say it again! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.